So we are in Siman Shin Yud Chet, and we are continuing and hopefully also concluding something we started last week. It was last week, and that's getting benefit or enjoying something that was done on Shabbat. So we talked about last week was Samuel Sofer, who wrote a Torah, part of it on Shabbat. Hopefully you don't use it for your let's ask you a question. We'll deal with it today. Quite a few years ago, I was at a family for Shabbat. I stayed for Shabbat, and they served for lunch salmon. And when they gave out the salmon, you could see that it's not fully cooked. So it wasn't so nice to eat it then, since it wasn't fully cooked. So they took it off the table, and they warmed it up on the platter, and served it for Suda Shlishit. Or in other words, they used the platter. That's fine to use the platter, but they finished cooking the salmon on Shabbat. Okay, so on Suda Shlishit, Kam Suda Shlishit, can I eat it? Can I eat the salmon on Shabbat? So what do you say?
It's cooking, but a platter is a platter. You're not cooking on a platter. You're supposed to cook it.
Well, you can cook on a platter, in a hot plate. The idea of a platter, I think we discussed it a few weeks ago. It's more of our sages, the decree, the zera of Chazal, in order to prevent people from playing with the fire or cooking or doing something which looks like cooking. Okay, so if you have a fire with a barbecue or coals or ashes, right, and you have something to put on it, and you see it's not warm enough, you'll start playing with it naturally. But so the platter prevents that. Yeah, when we put something on the platter, it must be cooked. One of the conditions we mentioned that you can take something out of the fridge and put it on the hot plate is that it is fully cooked. So they took the salmon, which was 80% cooked, maybe 70% cooked, and put it on the platter on Shabbat for Suda Shlishit. So Riboki Kulo. That's the interesting idea here, Riboki Kulo. Will you eat a 51% cooked salmon?
People eat raw fish.
No, because yeah.
And it's particularly tuna fish.
Right, but even when they eat raw fish, it's not just a fish. They take it out and cut it and slice it, and that's it. There is some kind of process to it beforehand. Also, smoked salmon you can call it kind of raw fish, right? Pickled meat is also kind of raw, but it has some kind of process to it, right? So what do you think? So can I eat this salmon on Suda Shlishit? So Arnold says no. Why not? It's been cooked on Shabbat. We learned last week. We'll argue with you soon. It's fine. That's the goal, right? To argue. But we learned last week that if something was done on Shabbat, so if it was done by shogeg, by mistake, so no one can eat it on that Shabbat. On Motzei Shabbat, everyone can eat it if it's done by mistake. If it's done by mazid on purpose, so the person who did it can never eat it. And other people can eat it after Shabbat. Okay, so based on that, when can we eat the salmon? After Shabbat from a lava marker, right? From a lava marker.
You have to wait the amount of time.
No, so we said that when a Jew does something that's interesting, we do not need to wait the amount of time. Because if a non-Jewish person does something, we'll say, okay, it's just asking a non-Jewish person, no one cares about it. So Chazal wanted to distance us from asking a non-Jew. So that's why they said, not only you can eat it only after Shabbat, you even have to wait the amount of time it takes to do it. When a Jewish person does, so on one hand, it's very severe. Sometimes he can never eat it for himself, but other people can eat it after Shabbat.
So when you put up a challah that's a majority cooked and it's before Shabbat, but it's not fully cooked and it keeps on cooking.
That's doing before Shabbat. I do it before Shabbat.
But it's not totally cooked before Shabbat. It's mostly cooked, let's say,
okay.
51%. I thought, that's the halacha, as long as the majority is cooked.
It's cooked, right. But the cholent, we're talking about putting it on the hot plate before Shabbat. Here they were talking
Or
about.
it can be totally raw. That's the
Uh,
other.
sometimes it can be
if you-
yeah.
If you put up your cholent, right, I think.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I was-
On a hot plate, it can be even raw.
On a, in a crock pot.
Yeah, yeah.
First
A
put
crock
on
pot,
hot-
well,
put
I think
on
we discussed
high
that.
first for
Yeah.
a half hour.
In a crock pot, I think we discussed it in the past, so we won't go into it because it's of time. But yeah, usually it can even be raw. If we cover the knobs, or the knob, there's only one knob, and the idea of covering the knob is that when you come to play with it, you won't play with it, and there's a bit of a distance between the pot and the heating element, so you can put it when it's even raw. But the fish, so it seems like you can't eat it on Shabbat. Surprisingly, we'll see today that you can eat the fish on Shabbat. Okay, so that's surprisingly.
The guests can eat, but not the.
Everyone can eat the fish. We will see soon. We will see very soon. When we learned about making tea on Shabbat, right? So we said that making tea on Shabbat, it's a great topic to learn about cooking because it combines different halachot. Combines the idea of Kli Rishon, the first source, the second Kli Sheni, Kli Shlishi. It combines about cooking after warming up. It combines Kalei Bishul, something which cooks very, very fast. So tea combines many, many halachot. So that's a great topic. This topic we are learning now, it's a great topic to combine many of the halachot of Shabbat. And not just one halacha of Shabbat, many of the halachot of Shabbat. Because really to answer this question, we need to know, Iyun, we need to really know the source of the halacha. And we need to know if something is forbidden, b'deoraita, or derabanan. Okay, are there any opinions who say that you can do it? Okay, are there any opinions who say that you can do it? Okay, so let's open the Mishnah Berurah, Shin Yud Chet, at the beginning of Shin Yud Chet, and we will learn. And we'll discuss today 3 main topics where we can be more lenient with something that was made on Shabbat. The first topic or the first case will be when there's an opinion that says it's permitted, you can do it on Shabbat. That will be the first case. The second case will be when it's forbidden midrabanan and not mideoraita. Okay, that will be the second case. And the third case will be when the thing itself didn't change. Let's give an example. We'll discuss it more later. When I cook a piece of meat, does the piece of meat change? Yeah, it does, right? When I transfer a cooked piece of chulant from Reshut HaYachid to Reshut HaRabim, okay, from a private zone to a public zone, it's asur mideoraita. Was a piece of chulant changed? It's the same piece of chulant, right? So we'll discuss those 3 topics. Okay, so let's go into it. If you want to go into the Mishnah Berurah, so it's in the Mishnah Berurah, Seif Katan Bet. And I'll read it inside because it's a very important Mishnah Berurah. He quotes the Pri Megadim. And let's read it. V'chol sheyesh sfek plugta baze. Whenever there's an argument between the Rishonim, ihavi bichlal bishul or lo, if it is considered cooking, we'll soon get to examples, or bishar melachot k'ai gavna, or in other melachot, not just cooking. Someone builds something. There's an argument if it's called building or not building. I'll give you an example. Do you open a cap of a bottle on Shabbat, a lid of a bottle? Many of us do, right? Some poskim, you've seen some places.
I don't know whether your questions are going to be trick questions or not. Nobody's going to answer.
Okay. So many people, especially the Haredi places, don't open it before ahead of time, right? And especially in the middle of the whole discussion, we won't go into it now. You're creating here something here. So there's an argument. Can you do it or can't you do it? Yeah, there's an argument. So whenever there's an argument, even if you hold it's forbidden, and we hold you can't open. We do hold it. I open caps on Shabbat. Okay? But let's say I hold you can't open a cap on Shabbat, and a friend of mine opened a cap on Shabbat. I can still drink from the wine. Okay. So let's read it. It's mutar. It's permitted. and he gives a great reason. וכל האיסור הזה הוא רק מדרבנן שקנסוהו וספקא דרבנן לכולם. If we remember last class, we said there's three opinions in the Tanaim, in the Braita, something which was done on Shabbat, permitted, forbidden, when is it forbidden, when is it permitted? We won't go into it now. There's too many details for us, right? We say that we are poskim, that the whole, if it's forbidden, it's Rabbanan, rabbinical. Our sages said if something was cooked on Shabbat, so our sages said don't eat it on Shabbat. It's a rabbinical decree. It's a rabbinical decree.
Why isn't it your right?
Right, the writer according to most, because where does it say it says on the writer I can't do something, but where does it say in the Torah that if I did something you can't enjoy it? Okay. It says don't light fire. But let's say someone lit fire on Shabbat. It says "Lo tevarosh b'chol shvatei," don't light fire. But if someone lit fire, it doesn't say in the Torah that you can't enjoy it, you can't use it. It just says don't light fire. Okay, so if someone wants to be a Rasha, he lights fire. It doesn't say in the Torah I can't use it. Came Chazal and said, 1 second. We need to be a bit of a logic here. We need to give human logic. We know as Jews, they say that second, I'll find the word. Okay, yeah. So they say in a joke that the small criminals, they escape from the law. The small criminals escape from the law. The medium criminals, they find the loopholes in the law. And the big criminals, they create the law. Okay, so Chazal said, okay, we as Jews, we'll find the ways, we'll say to someone, hey, you know what, you aren't so makpid about it, light for me a fire and I'll enjoy it. So Chazal said, no, we have to make some distance between it, and they said, someone lit a fire on Shabbat, you can't enjoy it. But it's a rabbinical decree. Therefore, whenever we have a question at all, is it a problem to light? Lighting fire on Shabbat is a problem, obviously. But whenever we have a question, is it actually an issur? Is it actually forbidden to do such a thing on Shabbat? So there's no decree of Chazal. The decree of Chazal was only when we know for sure, 100%, that something is forbidden. Okay, as soon as we don't know if it's forbidden or not, so there's no decree of Chazal. Okay, that's the rule. So here, that's what I said. It's not just enough to know the halacha. We need to know also all of the opinions. Okay, and we'll give all the opinions. So now we really need to know Melichot Shabbat. And we'll give two very common examples. Okay, two very common, maybe three, because we mentioned also the cap. Okay, three very common examples. Let's start from the cap. Okay, we said the cap, there's an argument. Can you open a cap on Shabbat? Can't you open a cap on Shabbat? Let's say I hold, you can't open a bottle on Shabbat. Okay, so that's what I hold. You don't open a bottle on Shabbat. Comes my friend, maybe also he holds you can't open it. But in the end, he opened it on Shabbat. Okay, since there is an argument, if there's such a problem at all, to open a lid, not to open a bottle, yeah, maybe it's permitted. Even I, who hold that you can't open it on Shabbat, even I can benefit from it on Shabbat. I can use it on Shabbat. Okay, because there's a question if it's permitted or forbidden. That's one example. And here we come to really the iyun. There's an argument between the Rishonim. Cooking. Okay, what's forbidden to cook? What's asur to cook on Shabbat? We hold, if it's not 100% cooked, there's still a problem in cooking it on Shabbat. It makes sense for many of us, right? If it's not cooked. So it's not cooked, will you serve it for a Shabbat table? Hopefully not, right? So
30% fish.
we'll get to it in a moment, okay? So if we hold a halacha that if it's not 100% cooked, there's a problem of cooking it on Shabbat. There is an opinion that as soon as we go to ma'achal ben drosai is a question how much it is exactly. Is it a third cooked or half cooked? But as soon as it gets to, let's say, half cooked on Shabbat, there's no more problem from the Torah to cook it on Shabbat. Maybe Chazal will say you can't do it, but there's no more problem from the Torah to cook it on Shabbat. So according to that opinion, okay, from the Torah law, from the Torah perspective, there's a fish, a heavier fish, let's say it takes 20 minutes to cook the salmon, let's say, okay? And I put it in the oven for 12 minutes. I'm missing 8 minutes. Okay, I'm missing 8 minutes. You can eat it, okay? It's if I really need to, I'll say it's dead. I mean, it's completely raw. No. If I need to, will I eat it? Yes. But will I save it? Will I serve it at the Shabbat table? No. So there's an opinion that says since it's already half cooked, okay, a bit more than half cooked, okay, mostly cooked. You can eat it b'shat adchak if you really need to. With your writer, you can cook it on Shabbat. Okay, you can take it and put it on the platter on Shabbat. We aren't paskin like that. We don't hold like this opinion. But if someone already did it, if he took the half raw fish and put it on the platter on Shabbat, since there's an opinion that says you can do it, so I can eat it. Okay?
The person did it.
Even he can eat it.
Even he-
Even he can eat it, yeah. Because there's a question if there's a problem here. There might not be a problem at all. So there's two things. Since all the decree of enjoying it on Shabbat is D'Rabbanan, is rabbinical, and also there's a question if there's at all here a problem, so you can eat it on Shabbat. Another example, can we take cold soup and put it on the platter on Shabbat? No. Okay. Well, we hold, according to many poskim, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch holds, that there's a problem in warming up liquid, even if it was cooked beforehand. But if you have any Yemenite friends, so you might know that they are like the Rambam. And the Rambam holds that if you have cooked soup, it's now cold, it's a freezing day and it's been outside for the whole night, okay, it's almost frozen, and you put it on the platter on Shabbat. There's no problem. Do lechatchila. Take it from the fridge, put it on the platter, according to the Rambam. If it was cooked once, it can't be cooked anymore. That's what the Rambam holds. So although we don't follow this ruling of the Rambam, but if someone already took out the soup from the fridge and put it on the hot plate on Shabbat, we can eat it on Shabbat. We can eat it on Shabbat. Even if it's an Ashkenazi, not a Yemenite. For sure, if a Yemenite does it, you can eat it on Shabbat. Some will say it's a machloket that you can even ask him to do it for you on Shabbat because for him it's really permitted. That's already a question. Okay, you can sometimes hint for him. Look, there's soup here. If you want to eat soup, I'm not telling you what to do. Okay, but some even hold you can tell them take the soup, put it on the hot plate. So for that's the case, we can see that you really need. It's not just enough to know the halachot of Shabbat. You really need to know. Okay, who holds what? What does the Rambam hold? What does the Ramban hold? What does the Rosh hold? And only then you can decide, okay, if it happened on Shabbat, can I enjoy it or no? That's the first topic. The second example is the Isser, is that forbidden with the Oraita and the Rabbanan. And here we come to another level. It's not enough to know if something is forbidden or permitted on Shabbat. You need to know also why is it forbidden on Shabbat? Is it Torah law or rabbinical law? Before we go in, let's give you the law. Try to think of the logic of it. When would be more lenient? Rabbinical, of course, rabbinical. For that, let's just remind ourselves very, very shortly with something we learned last week. We said that last week there's three opinions. When we didn't go into them in depth, but we will mention it. There are three opinions about what happens if Reuven cooked raw meat on Shabbat. According to one opinion, when we unpaskin like this, if he did it b'shogeg, everyone can enjoy it on Shabbat itself. If he did it b'mezid, wait till Motzei Shabbat. Okay, that's
You
the
have to wait the time.
no. Again, we don't have to wait the amount of time. Okay, so according to the most lenient opinion, if he did it b'shogeg by mistake, eat it on Shabbat, no problem. We don't follow this opinion. We go by the second opinion. B'shogeg, wait for Motzei Shabbat. B'mezid, okay, so it depends. He himself can never eat it, but other people can eat it after Shabbat. Okay, they don't need to wait. Now let's see if we have two things. He also did something which is Asur D'Rabbanan, and also did it b'shogeg, and according to the more lenient opinion, so you can eat it right on Shabbat. So the Gra brings, maybe I'll read it here from the Mishnah Berurah. The Bur Halacha quotes the Gra. And the Gra said we should follow the more lenient opinion. If it's in the Biur Halacha, you won't read it inside, it's in the Biur Halacha. Okay, so we're really going to get into details on Shabbat now. Well, we have to start learning on Shabbat. Maybe I'll read one. Let's read, if you look in the Biur Halacha, so it's the first Biur Halacha on the Siman. And I'll read really from the last few lines. Shuv matzati, I found again, shegam b'chei adam, also in the book called Chei Adam. There's a joke about this, I'll tell you soon about Chei Adam. כתב דנראה לו דבשוגג באיסור דרבנן, מותר אפילו לא בו ביום, וכבר קידמו הגרא בביאורו. So, the Chei Adam and the Grahol. And if someone did a melacha, it's midoraita, it's permitted. The whole problem is it's rabbinical. The Rabbanan is forbidden. We'll try to give an example. And he did it b'shogeg, so he can enjoy from it on Shabbat itself. Let's give quite a relatively common example. According to most poskim, the lights we have here, it's a LED lights or fluorescent lights. According to many poskim, or most poskim, you can't turn them on Shabbat with the Rabbanan. With the right, there's no problem. With the Rabbanan, we won't go into it now. That's a very, very common shita, okay, opinion in the poskim. Let's say someone by mistake, he forgot that it's Shabbat. He thought it's Friday. He turned on the lights in his room. He turned on the lights and then he realized, oh no, it's Shabbat. The room was pitch dark beforehand. He couldn't read anything in the room. But now there's light. And he did it by mistake. Can he take the Mishnah Berurah right now and read and learn inside the room? Why, yes. So he did something which is the Rabbanan. He did it b'shogeg. He didn't do it on purpose. So here we follow the more lenient opinion. Okay, only in that case we follow only the more lenient opinion that if it's also the Rabbanan and also he did it b'shogeg, you can benefit from it on Shabbat itself. That's just a short joke about the Chei Adam. Let's say not the Chei Adam Chas v'Chayla, about the name. Okay, let's say as a smile. Why did the Chei Adam call his book Chei Adam? Chei Adam, the life of a person. So teach people how to follow Torah, right? V'chai b'hem, and the Torah says v'chai b'hem. Let's say for a smile, there's a Shulchan Aruch, and then someone came and did Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Right, there's a Shulchan Aruch with a big book of halacha, came someone and said Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. So he tried to think, how will I make sure that no one will take my book and cut it short? So he said, okay, I'll call it Chei Adam. Okay, no one will call a book Kitzur Chei Adam, shortening the Chei Adam. That's why he called the book Chei Adam. He's a very interesting, by the way, posek. He was a Talmid Chacham. He was, I think, a rabbi in some community, but I don't remember which community. But he didn't want to get a wage from the community. He didn't want to get a wage from the community. So he had a business. He used to travel from place to place of his business, and he used to say every day, although he traveled, he used to learn quite a lot of time doing the traveling. It's not so easy as today that you can sit in the train or the plane and it's comfortable. But it's interesting that he decided, I want to earn my living, not from Torah. I want to earn my living from a different place, and I'll learn Torah and write a book of halacha that the Mishnah Berurah and other poskim quote quite often. Kitzur, Chei Adam, Nishmat Adam, he has a few. Chochmat Adam, he has a few books. Okay, so we discussed two cases in the meantime when we are more lenient for something which was done on Shabbat. The first case is when there is an opinion that it's mutar. Okay, for example, there is an opinion that you can warm up soup on Shabbat. Although we don't hold like that, if someone did it, we can eat the soup on Shabbat. If it's cooked soup. Another case when someone did by mistake something which is asur only midirabanan. And we have a third case, and here it's you can be makel, you can be more lenient, but okay, so you can be more lenient, but, and then we'll also get hopefully to a fourth case if we have time. When we lived in not in Ma'ale Adumim, somewhere else, when we lived somewhere else, so we had a shul that we tried to make it a shul which was open for everyone. So obviously we went by the halacha and everything, but we gave a welcoming atmosphere for people who weren't necessarily Shomer Shabbat. And they had bar mitzvahs in the shul and other things. And we used to ask very nicely, to use the phone. But if someone used the phone, we didn't now start shouting at them, "What are you doing? Get out of the shul." We used to try to do everything nice and a kari minyan, so people can come and enjoy the davening. What happens when there's a bar mitzvah? So we used to ask them to bring the food before Shabbat. But let's say they didn't bring the food on Shabbat. They drove the food on Shabbat. Okay, they drove the food on Shabbat to shul. Driving, obviously, is an issur midoraita. Maybe today for electric cars or big. Well, let's not go into that. That's a big question. But driving is issur midoraita. Okay. Or another example. When I was in one of the bases, every Shabbat, next to the base, there was a ton of smoke coming. Not because of fire, not just because of fires, because of barbecues. Came the parents of the soldiers and the Israeli soldiers. When you make a barbecue, you don't make a small barbecue just for your son. You bring a whole pile of meat and you invite all of the friends. And in the army, it's very much the friendship. Okay, you want it very, very much. So obviously, they can't eat the meat on Shabbat itself. But there's a family there, let's say, who thought also about the religious friends. And they said, those religious friends, they can't eat the meat that was cooked on Shabbat. Let's bring them snacks. We'll bring them close snacks. They'll open it, kasher me'adrin, it has the great hechsher on it. But they brought them on Shabbat. Can you eat them? Can you eat it or no? Okay. That's a question I used to get quite often. Can you eat something that was brought on Shabbat? Or the other option is wait for Motzei Shabbat. We learned last week, if they can wait for Motzei Shabbat and eat it on Motzei Shabbat, but they want to eat on Shabbat with their friends, especially when there's an atmosphere of being together, Rav Ovadia and other poskim differentiate between something that was changed on Shabbat or it looks the same. It's just the position of it changed. If it's changed on Shabbat, okay, the meat is cooked meat. There's a big difference between raw meat and cooked meat, so you can't enjoy it on Shabbat. But if it looks the same, okay, it's exactly the same thing, and only the place of it, the position of it has changed, then, and let's say, you can enjoy it on Shabbat, but shomer nafsho yirchak, someone who wants to keep himself, he should distance himself from such a thing. Okay, so if it causes fighting, and now if the rabbi will say, before the Kiddush, before I say agafe, I just want to mention one thing. No one eat, please, the chips here. That will cause fights. Don't do that, okay? But if someone knows quietly that the chips were brought on Shabbat, so he'll eat other things, or he'll just drink the wine, or he'll just have Kiddush at home. Okay, so he can eat it, you're allowed to eat it, but shomer nafsho yirchak. So that's when there wasn't any difference in the change in the object itself. Okay, so that's one, the third topic, and let's go to the fourth case, and that can actually be quite common. Let's say I'm in a room. In a room, I have a small light. Okay, there's a window in the room, and there's the street light just out of the window. If I want to read, I can take my book, turn around, and read here. Technically, I can do it. Is it comfortable? No, but I can do it. I can do it, right? If someone comes now and turns on the light on Shabbat, so I don't need to leave the room. Chazal didn't tell a person, okay, now you can't be in the room at all. They just said, don't enjoy the light that was turned on. Don't enjoy the light that was turned on. So I can do in the room everything that I could have done beforehand. So if I could read in the room, even if it's now easier to read in the room, I can still read in the room. But if before it was pitch black in the room and I couldn't read at all in the room, so don't read in the room. Okay, if I want to read, go somewhere else. You go somewhere else. If someone turned on the music, so Chazal didn't tell us, okay, now also walk like this. Okay, what do you say? I can't hear. What do you say? Okay, no, just try not to enjoy the music on Shabbat. Try to so you don't need to leave the room. You can do anything that you could have done in the room, and you don't need to. Also, if someone turned on the air conditioner, turned off the air conditioner, you can just stay in the room. Here may be a short, funny story. For a few months in the base of Golani, when I was in the base of Golani, we had Druze soldiers. We had Druze soldiers. So they're in the base. One Shabbat I was with my family in the base, and after the meal we walked around the base, like Shabbat stroll. All of a sudden I can hear this loud music of Mishema Milo Mefached. Say, okay, that's a religious, maybe Masorti song. Who puts this song on Shabbat? I can understand, not on Shabbat. I really can hear it from quite far away. We get closer, and I see, it was from the Druze, from the Druze group. They had the song of Mishim Aminu Mefached. But if I say, even if a Jewish person put on the music, so just try not to benefit from it, try to enjoy it, but you can still be in the room, can still walk around. You don't need to escape or go to another place. And with that, we conclude the topic of enjoying things that were done on Shabbat.